Let's talk about what really matters, not the noise, not the distractions, but the truth. Because sooner or later, every person has to stop pointing fingers and start looking in the mirror. That's the moment real change begins. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also where transformation lives. When you finally decide to stop avoiding responsibility, you unlock the very first door to progress. Growth begins where blame ends. Own your story, all of it, the good, the bad, and the parts no one knows but you. If you're always playing the victim, you'll never be the hero in your own life. Recognizing where you've gone wrong isn't about shaming yourself. It's about facing reality with courage. Immaturity dodges responsibility. Maturity owns it and learns from it. There is no growth without reflection, and no victory without struggle. That's the price of leveling up in life. Stop negotiating with dysfunction. You cannot fix chaos by participating in it. If someone is lying, manipulating, or constantly disrespecting your boundaries, that isn't love, it's control, and every time you stay silent, you're giving permission for it to continue. Peace of mind has value. If someone or something is costing you that, the cost is too high. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Parenting is not about being popular. It's about raising strong, respectful, and self-aware human beings. When a child pushes back against rules and structure, that's natural. What's unnatural is a parent who backs down for fear of being disliked. Kids need limits more than they need approval. When you trade authority for friendship, you lose both. It's not cruelty to discipline. It's preparation for real life. Just because you're hurt doesn't mean you're right. Pain skews perspective, and feelings aren't facts. Your emotions are valid, but they are not automatic proof that your behavior is justified. You cannot weaponize your wounds and expect healthy relationships to grow around them. Self-awareness means knowing when to step back, question your response, and choose a better one. Maturity is the gap between feeling and reacting. Relationships don't usually implode from one dramatic event. They erode through hundreds of tiny betrayals, white lies, broken promises, avoided conversations. Honesty is not optional, it's the oxygen of connection. If you're hiding something, the problem isn't just trust, it's the absence of it. Trust can't grow in silence, secrets, or half-truths. The foundation has to be real, or it's already crumbling. Respect is never demanded, it's commanded. That means earning it through consistency, accountability, and personal boundaries. People will treat you the way you treat yourself. If you want to be taken seriously, act like someone worth respecting. That includes letting people face their own consequences. Saving someone from reality isn't love, it's sabotage. The life you want won't land in your lap. It requires discipline, courage, and action, and truth doesn't care how you feel, it only cares what you do. If you're brave enough to face it, you're strong enough to change everything. Stop negotiating with dysfunction. When chaos becomes familiar, many people start confusing it with connection. But the truth is, you cannot fix broken situations by throwing more broken behavior into the mix. If someone lies to you, manipulates your emotions, or repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, that is not a sign of deep emotional investment. It's a sign of control. Love doesn't leave you drained, confused, or doubting your worth. It builds you up, not breaks you down. Every time you stay silent in the face of mistreatment, you're sending a signal that it's okay to be treated that way. Silence isn't neutral, it's permission. People often hope that by being patient, things will improve, that by giving more love, they'll eventually receive it back in a better form. But dysfunction doesn't respond to kindness. It feeds off of leniency. The longer you excuse unacceptable behavior, the more deeply it embeds itself into your life. What started as a red flag becomes the new normal. You start adjusting yourself around someone else's toxic patterns. That's not compromise, that's self-abandonment. Eventually, your peace becomes the price you pay just to keep the situation going, and no relationship, no matter how deep or long standing, is worth that price. There's a difference between support and self-sacrifice. Being supportive doesn't mean allowing yourself to be disrespected, dismissed, or walked over. It means setting boundaries clearly and consistently, even when it's uncomfortable. Dysfunction thrives in unclear spaces, in relationships where people don't communicate their needs, or where they fear standing up for themselves. The healthier you become, the more difficult it will be to tolerate what you once accepted. That's not a loss, that's growth. Some people will only treat you as well as you insist on being treated. That's a difficult truth, but it's one you need to accept if you want peace. If you let people violate your boundaries over and over, they won't suddenly wake up and treat you better out of gratitude. They'll just keep taking more, and the more you allow it, the more you start to convince yourself that maybe you deserve it, or that maybe this is as good as it gets. But peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. If the people around you require you to lose your peace in order to keep them, they're not your people. You also have to accept that not everyone wants to change. Some people don't want resolution, they want control, they don't seek understanding, they seek power. You can spend years hoping for different behavior from someone who has no intention of being different. That's not loyalty, that's self-neglect. Holding on to people who show you they're not capable of healthy relationships doesn't make you noble. It makes you unavailable for the people who are. At a certain point, you have to stop asking why someone keeps hurting you and start asking why you keep allowing it. That shift in perspective is painful, but it's powerful. It puts the responsibility back where it belongs, not on the person who won't change, but on you, the one who keeps hoping they will. You don't have to carry people who keep cutting you down. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to protect your space. You're allowed to choose yourself. The truth is simple. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. Peace isn't just a feeling. It's your foundation. Without it, everything else suffers. You think clearer, live fuller, and love better when you're not constantly defending yourself from dysfunction. So stop making excuses for chaos. Start making space for peace. Your life will change the moment you decide your peace matters more than someone else's comfort. Parenting is often misunderstood in today's world. Many adults confuse being a good parent with being a popular one, especially when their children push back against rules and expectations. But parenting was never meant to be a popularity contest. The job isn't to be your child's best friend. The job is to guide, shape, and prepare them for life outside your home. That requires structure, rules, and sometimes making decisions they don't like or understand at the time. Children crave boundaries even when they fight them. Clear limits give them a sense of safety and predictability in a world that often feels chaotic. When a child knows where the line is drawn, it gives them something solid to push against as they learn and grow. Without boundaries, kids end up confused, overwhelmed, and often entitled, believing that the world will bend for them the way a permissive parent does. That's not love. That's setting them up for failure. Enforcing rules doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a responsible one. If your child is upset because you've taken the phone away, enforced a curfew, or held them accountable for their actions, that's not a parenting fail. That's a success. Kids need to experience consequences in the safety of your home so they're not blindsided by them out in the real world, where compassion is limited and stakes are higher. Delaying those lessons doesn't protect them, it weakens them. You cannot discipline from guilt. Many parents overcompensate for their own past mistakes by being overly lenient, but that doesn't heal anyone. It only creates confusion. Children don't benefit from being handed everything. They benefit from working for things, earning trust, and understanding that actions have consequences. When you give in to guilt or fear of being disliked, you stop parenting and start enabling. That's not strength. That's surrender. Respect in a parent-child relationship is not automatic. It's taught and modeled. Children learn how to speak to others, how to handle conflict, and how to regulate emotions by watching you. If you demand respect but don't demonstrate it, you're creating a double standard they will eventually reject. But when you model consistency, integrity, and calm authority, they learn to reflect those same qualities. Respect is caught more than it is taught. It's also important to recognize that love includes discipline. Real love does not mean always saying yes or shielding a child from every hardship. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes it means watching your child be disappointed or angry with you and standing firm anyway. Discipline isn't punishment, it's teaching, and every boundary you set is a lesson in self-control, accountability, and emotional intelligence. In the end, your job is not to raise a child who never gets upset with you. Your job is to raise an adult who can function in the world, contribute to society, and form healthy relationships. That won't always feel good in the short term, but it will be worth it in the long run. Parenting with backbone, consistency, and compassion is hard, but it's necessary, because the world doesn't need more entitled children. It needs prepared adults. Just because you're hurt doesn't mean you're right. That can be a hard truth to swallow when emotions are high and pain feels overwhelming. But the reality is that pain, while real and valid, can distort your perception of people, events, and even your own role in a situation. When you're hurting, everything feels personal, every word stings more, every silence feels louder, and every action seems like an attack. But not everything that hurts you was meant to hurt you. There is a difference between feeling something and understanding it. Emotions are powerful, but they are not always reliable narrators. They reflect what you're experiencing, but they don't always tell the full story. That's why it's important to take a step back, breathe, and ask yourself what the facts actually are. Did someone truly wrong you, or are you interpreting their actions through the lens of past wounds or unspoken expectations? When you lead with emotion, especially in conflict, it's easy to become reactive instead of responsive. Anger flares, words are said that can't be taken back, and the focus shifts from resolution to retaliation. You might feel justified because you're hurt, but that doesn't mean your reaction is healthy or productive. Emotions are meant to be felt, not weaponized. If your pain leads you to lash out, blame, or shut down completely, you're no longer communicating. You're defending. You have to learn how to sit with your feelings without making them someone else's problem. That's part of emotional maturity. You can acknowledge your hurt without assigning fault where there is none. You can express what you feel without using it as ammunition. Being hurt gives you the right to heal, but not the right to harm others in the process. It's okay to feel everything. You just don't have to act on every feeling. One of the most important lessons in life is recognizing that two things can be true at once. You can be hurt, and someone else might not have meant to hurt you. You can feel misunderstood without someone actually having wronged you. These nuances are where growth happens. Learning to navigate your emotions without letting them control your actions is a skill that will serve you in every relationship, especially the one you have with yourself. Healing begins when you stop using your emotions as a shield. If every time someone challenges you or offers feedback you respond with defensiveness, you're not protecting yourself, you're avoiding growth. Not every confrontation is an attack, not every disagreement is betrayal. Sometimes it's simply another person offering a different perspective, and if you're always positioning yourself as the wounded party, you'll never see the value in listening. In the end, feelings are not facts, they're indicators, not conclusions. They point to something that needs attention, not necessarily something that needs to be acted on immediately. Take time to process before you speak. Ask yourself if your reaction is based on truth or simply a trigger. The more you practice emotional discipline, the more clarity and peace you'll experience. And in that clarity, you'll begin to see that your worth isn't tied to your wounds. It's defined by how you rise above them. Just because you're hurt doesn't mean you're right. Pain distorts perception. You've got to separate feelings from facts. Yes, your feelings matter, but they don't rewrite truth. Stop using emotion as a defense for bad behavior. Expand it into 7 paragraphs without bold and italic text, also without headings. Just because you're hurt doesn't mean you're right. That statement may sound harsh, but it's one of the most important truths you can embrace if you want to grow. Emotional pain has a way of making everything feel urgent, unfair, and personal. When we're hurting, we tend to view situations through a distorted lens, one that places blame outside ourselves and frames everything in terms of how we've been wronged. But pain alone is not proof that someone else is in the wrong. It's simply a signal that something inside of us needs attention. Pain distorts perception. It magnifies small offenses and invents motives that may not even exist. When emotions are high, logic tends to disappear. That's when assumptions start replacing facts, and when our reaction becomes louder than the actual problem. Hurt makes you feel like you have to defend yourself, even when no one is attacking you. It convinces you that you're justified in saying or doing things that, in a calm state, you would recognize as harmful or unfair. There is a critical difference between validating your emotions and using them to justify bad behavior. Your feelings matter. They deserve to be acknowledged and worked through, but they don't override truth, and they don't give you a free pass to lash out at others or excuse actions that hurt people around you. If you hurt someone while trying to process your own pain, you're not healing. You're projecting, and that only leads to more brokenness, not resolution. Emotional maturity is knowing that not every painful experience requires a dramatic response. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is sit with the discomfort and ask yourself, what is this really about? That moment of reflection can separate an emotional trigger from a genuine injustice. It allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Taking time to understand your emotions instead of being ruled by them is a form of strength, not weakness. There is also power in asking whether your expectations were ever communicated or if they were only assumed. Many conflicts arise not because someone intentionally hurt us, but because we expected them to know something we never clearly said. Hurt feelings in those cases are real, but the fault may not lie where we first think it does. Learning to take accountability for our unspoken expectations is a big part of separating our feelings from the facts. You have to be honest with yourself. Are you using your pain as a shield against accountability? Are you clinging to hurt because it's easier than admitting you may have played a role in the conflict? These are hard questions, but they're necessary ones. Growth comes from reflection, not justification. The moment you stop trying to win the emotional argument and start trying to understand your emotions is the moment you begin to heal in a meaningful way. In the end, pain is inevitable, but how you respond to it is entirely up to you. You can choose to let it shape you, or you can choose to let it control you. You can build a life around your wounds, or you can build a life beyond them. The difference lies in whether you're willing to confront not just what hurt you, but how you reacted to it. Because being hurt doesn't make you right, but it does give you the opportunity to become wiser, stronger, and more grounded than you were before. Trauma isn't your fault, but healing is your responsibility. The things that happened to you, especially the ones that broke your sense of safety or trust, were never things you asked for. They weren't fair and they weren't deserved. You didn't sign up to be wounded. But as much as that truth deserves compassion, it also demands a turning point, because what happened to you can't be the only story you tell about yourself for the rest of your life. It's easy to get stuck in the pain because it's familiar. It's what you know, and in some ways it becomes a part of your identity. You begin to organize your life around the things that hurt you. You start making choices based on fear instead of potential, reacting from your past rather than responding to your present. Without realizing it, you hand the steering wheel over to something that doesn't even exist anymore, a memory, a scar, a moment that already passed but still runs the show. You cannot rewrite what happened, but you can choose how long you let it define you. That's the hard truth. Healing doesn't begin when someone else says sorry or finally sees your pain. It begins when you decide that your future matters more than your past. No one can give you peace if you're still holding on to the wreckage like it's proof of who you are. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's deciding that your story will be more than a collection of tragedies. Healing takes effort. It takes honesty. You have to sit with the things you'd rather avoid, talk about the things you've buried, and admit the ways you've allowed pain to make your choices for you. That isn't weakness, that's strength, and healing doesn't happen all at once. It's not a straight line. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on, and others you'll feel like it just happened yesterday. That's normal. What matters is that you keep moving forward anyway. No one else can do the work for you. People can support you, listen to you, even love you through it. But they can't heal you. That part is yours. It's about facing your reflection without turning away. It's about understanding that healing is not forgetting the past. It's learning to live beyond it. It's deciding that you are more than what someone did to you or what life took from you. And when you choose to heal, you're not just helping yourself. You're breaking a cycle that might have lasted for generations. The truth is, if you don't do the work to heal, you end up bleeding on people who didn't hurt you. Unhealed trauma shows up in your relationships, your choices, your reactions. It makes you sabotage the very things you want. It whispers lies into your ear about your worth, your potential, and your ability to change. The longer you let it go unaddressed, the more power it gains, but the moment you decide to face it, you begin to take your power back. You didn't choose your trauma, but you get to choose what comes next. You can keep letting your past poison your future, or you can start building a life where your pain is only a chapter, not the whole book. Healing doesn't erase the past, but it changes what the past means to you. It turns survival into strength and pain into purpose, and that shift is what gives your life back to you, piece by piece, day by day. Relationships don't usually fall apart in one dramatic moment. They unravel slowly through overlooked details, avoided conversations, and repeated silence. It's rarely the one big lie that destroys everything. It's the buildup of small dishonesty, passive neglect, and the choices we make not to communicate when it matters. A relationship isn't held together by grand gestures or occasional words of love. It's built in the day-to-day honesty, the commitment to truth even when it's uncomfortable, and the choice to show up genuinely. Trust doesn't vanish in a single act. It erodes bit by bit when someone chooses to hide instead of speak, when they deflect instead of explain, and when they pretend instead of being vulnerable. People often believe that as long as they aren't lying outright, they're maintaining trust. But the truth is, omitting, sugarcoating, and avoiding are forms of dishonesty too. Trust isn't just about what you say, it's about what you don't say and why. Honesty isn't optional in a relationship, it's the foundation. Without it, everything else is shaky. Love can't thrive in secrecy. Communication can't grow in avoidance. Intimacy doesn't exist when people are performing instead of being authentic. When you constantly hide how you feel or what you need, you create distance, and that distance doesn't stay invisible for long. Eventually, it turns into resentment, confusion, and disconnection. What people often misunderstand is that hiding things in a relationship doesn't protect it. It weakens it. You might think you're sparing someone's feelings or avoiding conflict, but in reality, you're creating an emotional gap that gets harder to close each time you avoid the truth. Small lies become habits, habits become patterns, and patterns define the tone of a relationship far more than intentions ever will. A relationship can only be as strong as the honesty that runs through it. It doesn't matter how long you've been together or how deeply you care for one another. If there's no transparency, there's no real connection. Saying you love someone while consistently hiding things from them creates a contradiction. Love should make you more open, not more guarded. If you're afraid to be honest, it says something about the relationship's safety and trust. People sometimes think that honesty will ruin a relationship, when in reality, a lack of it already has. Truth doesn't break healthy relationships, it strengthens them. If someone can't handle your truth, then the relationship wasn't as solid as it seemed. Being honest means respecting the other person enough to let them make decisions with all the information. Anything less is manipulation disguised as care. In the end, a relationship without honesty isn't a relationship at all. It's a performance, two people acting, hoping the show doesn't fall apart, but real connection can't happen in hiding. It only grows in light. So if you want something meaningful, lasting, and real, you have to be willing to speak the truth, even when your voice shakes, because it's better to face a hard truth together than to pretend through a comfortable lie alone. Relationships don't usually fail because of a single dramatic betrayal. More often, they collapse under the weight of repeated, quiet dishonesty. The little lies, the half-truths, and the things left unsaid begin to pile up until the foundation starts to crack. These aren't always obvious at first. They can seem harmless, avoiding a hard conversation, downplaying a feeling, or telling yourself you'll address something later, but those moments matter. Over time, they shape the emotional climate of the relationship. Trust isn't something that just appears between two people. It's built slowly through consistent behavior, open dialogue, and the courage to be honest even when it's hard. Every time someone chooses not to say what they really feel or hides behind avoidance, a small piece of that trust is chipped away, and while one or two chips might not seem like much, they eventually become fractures that can't be ignored. A relationship doesn't need to explode to fall apart. It just needs to be neglected. Honesty is not just a nice quality in a relationship. It is the structure that everything else depends on. Without it, the connection becomes superficial, held together by assumption and routine rather than authenticity. People can spend years thinking they're close to someone, only to realize they were never truly known. That realization doesn't usually come during a big fight. It comes in quiet moments of distance, when one partner senses that something is missing and can't quite explain why. When you consistently hide your truth from someone you love, you're not protecting them. You're building a wall between you. You may think you're avoiding pain, but what you're really doing is withholding intimacy. Being honest isn't just about confessing wrongdoings or being blunt. It's about inviting someone into your inner world, letting them see who you are beyond the surface, even when it's messy or uncertain. That's what builds true closeness. There's a belief some people carry that honesty will cause conflict and damage the relationship. But the reality is, the lack of it already is. Avoiding honesty doesn't avoid conflict. It just delays it, often making it worse when it finally comes out. What you resist grows. What you avoid controls you. And the more you pretend everything is fine, the more disconnected both partners become. You can't resolve what you won't admit. A relationship where one or both people are hiding parts of themselves is a relationship in name only. It might look functional from the outside. There may be routines, shared responsibilities, and even affection. But if the truth isn't present, the emotional bond isn't either. It's not enough to stay together. You have to be real together, And realness requires vulnerability, accountability, and the willingness to be uncomfortable in service of growth. In the end, love cannot thrive in a place where truth is unwelcome. If you find yourself hiding how you feel, silencing your voice, or shrinking parts of yourself to maintain peace, then peace isn't what you have at silence, and silence is not safety, it's slow erosion. If trust matters to you, if connection matters to you, then honesty must become a non-negotiable, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard, because without truth there is no real relationship. There's only the illusion of one. You don't demand respect, you command it by how you live, how you speak, how you walk into a room, and most importantly, by what you tolerate. Respect doesn't come from raising your voice, flexing your title, or trying to control people. It comes from consistency, from quiet strength, from a sense of self that isn't shaken by external noise. People watch how you move, they observe your standards, and if you don't set them clearly, they will set them for you. Commanding respect starts with how you treat yourself. If you consistently put yourself last, ignore your own boundaries, and accept mistreatment in the name of keeping the peace, you send a loud message to the world that you are not worth respecting. Self-respect isn't just about confidence. It's about discipline. It's about holding yourself to the same standards you expect from others. You can't ask people to treat you better than you treat yourself. How you allow others to treat you is just as important. Every time you stay silent when someone disrespects you, you reinforce the behavior. When you excuse it or brush it off, you're not being kind, you're being complicit. People test boundaries, that's human nature, but it's your job to show them where the line is drawn. You don't have to argue, you don't have to prove anything, you just need to follow through. Respect is not given freely. It is earned and protected. The way you communicate matters too. Do you speak with clarity or hesitation? Do you stand firm in your truth or shrink to avoid conflict? Your tone, your words, and your energy all speak before you do. If you speak like you're unsure of your worth, people will treat you like you're unsure of your worth. But if you speak with grounded conviction, not arrogance, not aggression, but certainty, people will take notice. Respect is also about consistency. You can't be strong one day and reckless the next. You can't preach boundaries but never enforce them. The more consistent you are, the more people will understand you're serious. Consistency isn't glamorous, it's not loud, but it builds a reputation that speaks louder than any demand ever could. People come to know what you stand for by what you continue to stand on day after day. Commanding respect also means respecting others, not in a performative way, but genuinely. You can be firm without being cruel. You can correct someone without demeaning them. When people see that you treat others with dignity, even in difficult moments, they recognize strength in you. And that strength earns respect far more than intimidation ever will. Respect is a two-way mirror. It reflects what you show. At the end of the day, respect begins and ends with you. It's not about making people fear you. It's about creating a presence that makes people think twice before crossing a line. It's about being clear, being fair, and being firm. And most of all, it's about understanding that if you don't command respect in your own life, no one else will do it for you. You don't need to chase respect. You just need to live in a way that makes it unavoidable. Stop rescuing people from their consequences. You think you're helping, but you're actually delaying their growth. Sometimes love means stepping back and letting someone hit bottom. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. Stop rescuing people from their consequences. It might feel like the compassionate thing to do in the moment, but in reality, it can be the very thing that holds them back. When you constantly step in to soften the blow, to clean up the mess, or to offer yet another chance, you're not helping someone grow. You're giving them room to avoid responsibility. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in friction, in failure, and in the difficult realizations that follow. Every time you shield someone from what they've earned, you rob them of that opportunity. People need to face the reality of their choices. That doesn't mean you stop caring or that you wish hardship on anyone. It means you love them enough to let them feel the consequences of their own behavior. It might look harsh from the outside, especially when others don't understand your decision to step back. But enabling someone's dysfunction isn't love, it's fear. Fear of what will happen if they fall, fear of how they'll feel about you, fear of being seen as the bad guy. But true love isn't about being liked. It's about doing what's right. There's a line between support and sacrifice. Support empowers people to rise, while sacrifice often means laying yourself down so they don't have to stand. That might be noble in theory, but in practice it leads to resentment, burnout, and dependency. If someone is repeatedly making the same mistakes and refusing to change, continuing to rescue them won't spark transformation. It just teaches them that no matter how far they fall, you'll always be there to catch them before they hit the ground. And sometimes they need to hit the ground to realize they can stand up on their own. Letting someone hit bottom doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. It acknowledges that change doesn't come from lectures or from saving someone over and over. It comes when the pain of staying the same finally outweighs the pain of changing, and that threshold is different for everyone. You can't push someone to their moment of awakening. You can only stop interrupting it. It's not your job to be the savior. Your job is to stand firm in your truth and let others rise in their own time. When you constantly rescue people, you're also training them to depend on you instead of themselves. They don't develop resilience, problem-solving skills, or accountability. They learn to manipulate your empathy, to press the right emotional buttons, and to expect your involvement as a given. That's not a relationship, it's a cycle. And the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to break. What begins as compassion quickly becomes control disguised as care. Sometimes the best way to love someone is to walk away from their chaos and let them navigate it on their own. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much to keep watching them self-destruct with your help. There's strength in silence, power in letting go, and clarity in allowing people to face the weight of their decisions. You can be present without being entangled. You can care without caring. In the end, people only change when they decide to, not when you beg them, not when you bargain, and not when you try to save them. They have to want it for themselves, and often that realization comes when they've run out of people to blame and lifelines to grab. Letting them get there might be painful for you, but it's necessary for them. Sometimes love doesn't look like reaching in. Sometimes it looks like stepping back, and that too is love. The life you want won't just show up one day because you hoped for it hard enough. It doesn't arrive wrapped in luck or granted by chance. It is earned through discipline, shaped by clear vision, and held together by choices that are often difficult. It's not enough to dream. You have to act. You have to get honest about where you are, where you want to go, and what you're actually doing to bridge that gap. Wishing is not a plan, and waiting is not a strategy. The life you're after will only come when you take consistent steps in its direction, even when those steps are uncomfortable. Comfort is often the biggest enemy of progress. It whispers in your ear, convincing you to stay where it's safe, where things are familiar, even if they're unfulfilling. Comfort will tell you that starting tomorrow is fine, that avoiding the hard conversation is better, that settling is easier than striving. But nothing meaningful has ever been built from comfort alone. The people who get the life they want are the ones who make hard decisions when no one is watching, who keep moving when the motivation fades, and who choose growth even when it hurts. Discipline is what separates intention from action. It's easy to set goals. It's easy to say you want something better, but none of that means anything if you don't have the discipline to follow through when it's boring, when it's hard, and when it's inconvenient. Discipline means doing the right thing when the wrong thing is easier. It means waking up early, saying no to distractions, and pushing through resistance. That's where the life you want is built, in those ordinary moments of quiet persistence. Having a vision is not about being unrealistic or overly ambitious. It's about being clear. If you can't picture what you want your life to look like, you'll keep drifting. A strong vision gives your effort direction. It helps you say yes to the right things and no to the wrong ones. Vision doesn't mean you have every step figured out. It means you have something worth working toward, something solid enough to guide your decisions. Without vision, you'll end up busy but aimless, working hard but going nowhere. Growth doesn't come from doing what's easy. It comes from leaning into challenge, from staying present when things get tough, and from trusting that the discomfort you're feeling now is shaping the strength you'll need later. Every time you choose short-term ease over long-term gain, you push the life you want further away. But every time you do what's necessary instead of what's comfortable, you inch closer to that life, even if progress feels slow. No one becomes successful by accident. Fulfilled, purposeful people didn't get there because it was convenient. They sacrificed, they stayed focused, they kept showing up long after the excitement wore off. That's what it takes, and you have the same ability. You don't need to be the smartest, the most talented, or the most connected. You just need to be the one who doesn't give up, the one who trades excuses for action, comfort for growth, and fear for commitment. In the end, the life you want will cost you something. It might cost you comfort, time, energy, or approval. But it's a trade worth making, because the cost of staying stuck, staying small, or staying safe is far greater. Don't settle for a life that just happens. Build one that reflects who you truly are and what you're really capable of. That kind of life isn't given, it's earned, and it starts the moment you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start doing the hard, necessary work anyway. Truth doesn't change just because it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unfamiliar. It remains what it is whether you're ready to face it or not. You can argue with it, avoid it, deny it, or try to twist it to fit your narrative, but in the end, truth doesn't bend. What changes is your willingness to confront it. And until you do, you'll stay stuck in a cycle of pretending, rationalizing, and repeating the same patterns that are keeping you exactly where you are. It's easy to confuse feelings with facts. Just because something feels unfair doesn't mean it is. Just because something hurts doesn't mean it's wrong. And just because something comforts you doesn't mean it's good for you. Feelings are real and valid, but they are not reality. They're temporary responses, not permanent conclusions. You must learn to distinguish what you feel from what is true. Because if you lead your life only through emotion, you'll constantly be misled by the moment. Taking accountability is the first step toward freedom. It's not about blame, it's about power. When you own your choices, your habits, and your results, you regain control over your future. You stop waiting for someone else to fix it. You stop hoping the world will adjust to your comfort zone. Instead, you adjust to reality, and that's where change begins, not in waiting, not in wishing, but in working with what's true, even when it stings. There's no transformation without truth. You can't grow from lies. You can't heal what you pretend isn't broken. And you can't become who you're meant to be if you keep hiding behind who you think you're supposed to be. Growth requires brutal honesty, not with other people, but with yourself. It means looking at your life without filters or excuses and saying, "This is where I am. This is what I've done. And this is what I'm going to change." Doing the work is not optional. You can read the books, attend the seminars, and have every breakthrough moment possible, but if you don't do the daily work of applying truth to your life, nothing changes. Insight is only potential. Discipline turns it into progress, and that work isn't always glamorous. It's often quiet, lonely, and filled with setbacks, but the difference between staying stuck and stepping forward is in who's willing to do it anyway. No one is coming to save you. That's not meant to sound cold. It's meant to empower you. Waiting for someone else to come along and fix what's broken, to make you feel better, or to take over the hard stuff is a guaranteed way to stay disappointed. You're not powerless, you're not helpless, but you have to stop outsourcing your change. The help may come, the support may arrive, but the first step is always yours. If you're willing to face the truth, accept responsibility, and do the hard, unglamorous work day after day, then you can change everything. Your past doesn't have to be your future. Your current situation doesn't have to be your forever. But nothing changes until you do, and it all starts the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What am I going to do about it?" That's where truth becomes transformation.